So yesterday you have about 10 children who were killed in Majdal Shams, which is in Syria, and the Israelis have been pretending that this is that these are Israelis who were killed, that this is in Israel, and that they are going to punish Hezbollah for the strike, even though they can't prove or provide evidence that it was Hezbollah. Okay, so again, Majdal Shams, just to show you on the map here. Is right there in the Golan Heights, okay? So you see the dotted lines, okay? This is the Golan Heights, okay? These are the occupied Golan Heights. Israel invaded them in 1967. They've been controlling them since 1967. We've looked at, previous UN resolutions clearly saying this is Syria, but in case you had any doubt, there's United Nations Security Council Resolution 242, and there's also 497, which says that the Israeli decision to impose Israel's laws, jurisdiction, and administration in the occupied Syrian Golan Heights is null and void and without international legal effect. Okay? Null and void. So the Israelis are getting hyped up over something that is not in their territory. All right? And you can see here from this CNN correspondent that none of the 12 killed in the Majdal Shams strike on Saturday are Israeli citizens. None. Israel has offered citizenship to residents, but most have refused. They have Israeli residency cards, but are not considered citizens. Okay? So when it comes to the community, we're talking about Druze. Now, Druze, I'm saying Druze, not Jews, okay? Just to be clear in case you're mishearing me. Druze are basically, without going into, the entire history of the religion, they're originally kind of like an offshoot, if you will, of Shia Islam, but they're considered something apart, okay? So they're considered their own religious sect entirely. And they are primarily Arab, they speak Arabic, and you have most of them living in Syria, then in Lebanon, and then in Palestine. So, if you find Druze who are in Syria, they will be very, patriotic, and it's funny, I was listening to the Israeli report, and even they were, corroborating that essentially. But it's, essentially they're very patriotic wherever you find them. And you have some who are in the Israeli army, but again, not from this community, okay? This community is in Syria. They feel Syrian, they identify Syrian, they reject Israel, and they say we are occupied people, okay? I've done a couple of reports in the past on the Druze in the Golan Heights, and, Israel trying to build all this, because they've ethnically cleansed the place before, right? And they were trying to build on top of their farms and all this stuff. I think it was about 2 years ago. I did a report on the channel, just in case you want to watch it. Okay, so these are the names of the children, and it's so funny watching the Israelis post a photo of them and pretending that they care about these children, right? Like, since when do the Israelis care about children, period, right? And especially Arab children it's ridiculous. It's like, look at the names. You can tell these are Syrian names, right? Fakhr al-Din, Halabi, Abu Salah. Here's John, so that's a Christian name, for a Christian name from Syria. So these are all Syrian children, all of them, and they're aged, you can see, between 10 to 16. Okay, so it's incredible that they say it was Hezbollah, because if you look at the impact crater, where is the crater? That's the point. This does not look like anything that Hezbollah would fire. If you look at the rockets that Hezbollah have, the ordnance, we're talking about 50 kilograms of explosives minimum. 50 kilograms, 80 kilograms, and that is enough to leave a hole in the ground. Not only that, but they never fire one. They don't just fire one rocket. They fire barrages of Katyushas and unless we're talking about ATGMs, that's a completely different thing. The ATGM would have, again, also made an enormous crater. But just even the lightest warhead, we're talking about 50 kilograms. Where's the crater? Where is the crater? okay, you would have holes everywhere across the entire pitch. Okay, so this doesn't make sense to me. The forensic evidence indicates that this was not Hezbollah. Not only that, but Hezbollah would admit, had they made a mistake, they would admit that they have done something. Look, I'll show you here, for example. Okay, this is from Asad Abu Khalil, professor. He says that Hassan reminds us that back in July War of 2006, an errant Hezbollah missiles fell on an Arab town in occupied Palestine and Palestinians were killed. Hezbollah did not deny responsibility and officially and publicly offered an apology for the mistake. It was mentioned in a speech by Nasrallah. Okay? There's also another thing from Nasrallah where he's telling people to, also in the same July 2006 war, okay? Where he's telling the Arab Jews who live in Haifa to, evacuate because they're in the way of the bombs and they don't want to hit them, okay?
ولعرب حيفا رسالة خاصة أقول نحن حزنا ونحزن لشهدائكم ولجرحاكم أنا أرجوكم وأتوجه إليكم أن تغادروا هذه المدينة أتمنى عليكم أن تفعلوا ذلك خلال الفترة الماضية إن وجودكم وما أصابكم جعلنا نتردد في التعرض لهذه المدينة بالرغم من أن الضاحية الجنوبية تقصف سواء قصفت حيفا أو لم تقصف حيفا.
Yeah, so he's saying we don't want to hit you. You're in the way, basically. Because remember that Israel kind of they ethnically cleansed Arab Jews from all over the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, Egypt, Yemen, etc. So he's basically telling them, please get out of Haifa because we don't want to hit you by accident, okay? Just to give you an idea of Hezbollah and their position, you have to understand that when it comes to Druze, they are extremely patriotic in the Golan Heights. They're Syrian. They will go out with Syrian flags and pictures of al-Assad and the president, and they refuse to become Israeli citizens. They completely refuse it. So the idea that Hezbollah would hit these people who are not only their brothers and sisters and cousins and neighbors, literally, but also in residents of their closest ally, Syria, is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. They would not do that. Just again, to be clear, this is like, it's like the United States shelling Canada. Why would the United States shell Canada? That makes literally no sense. Okay? Just to give you an idea. It makes no sense. So, not only that, but Hezbollah have hit the Israelis over 1,000 times, over 1,500, 1,600 times. Okay? They have a live counter in their museum. It's over 1,600 times minimum since October 7th. Have you ever heard of them hurting a civilian? Any civilian? I think maybe there's one Israeli civilian, quote unquote, right? Like an actual person who is not wearing an IDF uniform. That's it. Hezbollah don't accidentally, drop things on people. That just has not happened. And the idea that out of all the places in the Golan Heights, it would happen on a Druze in Majdal Shams, on a Druze town, is so far-fetched. You have to be a foreigner and or an idiot to believe that. You have to be someone with no idea who the Druze are, where Majdal Shams is, what Hezbollah and their political and military alignments and goals are, to believe that. You have to be like this, like German media. Look at them writing tödlichste Attacke auf israelische Zivilisten. They're not Israelis. Once again, these are Syrians with Syrian names and who live in Syria and reject Israel. But, I've never seen the Israelis so upset about dead Syrians in my life. I think it's the first time they've ever given a crap about dead Arab children and dead Syrians. So I can't wait to see what their retaliation, quote unquote, is. So, even if you believe that Hezbollah did this, even if you believe that, you really believe it was Hezbollah, their beef is with Syria. It's not with Israelis. Do you understand? Even if you believe that Hezbollah did this, their beef is with Syria. It's not with Israel. These are not Israelis. This is not in Israel. I can't be clearer, okay? And the irony is, Netanyahu tried to meet with the families of the victims, and they said no. I mean, just to really drive the point home. This is in the times of Israel. Families of kids killed in Golan, they should be writing the Syrian Golan Heights, rocket attack, refused to meet Netanyahu. Yeah. They don't want to meet him. They're disgusted. Okay? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office has unsuccessfully tried to organize a meeting today or tomorrow between the premier and several relatives of the children killed in the Hezbollah rocket strike. Again, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? So, that really, I think, drives the point home. And the question is now, well, what was it? If it wasn't Hezbollah, who the hell did this? Okay, so we have two other possibilities. The other possibility is that this was an Iron Dome misfire. Okay, so when there are Hezbollah rockets incoming, the Israelis activate the Iron Dome to shoot the rockets down. Okay, you have a missile that follows and tries to shoot down the rocket. Sometimes these missiles don't work. Okay, they're duds. They misfire or they go in the wrong direction and they hit, random people or random targets. As a matter of fact, I have a video to show you of an Israeli Iron Dome missile doing just that in the exact same town 3 months ago, or 4 months. Now it's March, so here's the video, okay? This is in Majdal Shams, the exact same town in the Golan Heights, and you can see the Israeli Iron Dome just randomly landing, on the town. I'm going to read you a statement now. This is a statement from the head of the Druze Initiative, okay, for El Risala. And he says, the missiles that fall on the Druze villages in the Golan and the Galilee are Israeli interceptor missiles, okay, from the Iron Dome. And they always cause great damage to places and to lives. We see Iron Dome missiles miss their targets and fall on us every day. There's also an eyewitness who said the same thing. Here, let me play the video for you.
مصاب بجلل يعني قد مقتول 12 ولد ولاد 10 سنين و11 سنه يعني حرام وين الامن وين الحمايه وين على الناس.
Right, so he's just saying what happened, these victims are children. Where's the protection? Where's the security?
ضربوا الصفاره راسهم طلع الصاروخ فيش تواني. حسب الله انكروا القول هذا انه اطلقوا صاروخ اتجاهنا واغلب الظن انه كتبات برزيل لانه اللي شافوه في بعض حقائق بتبين ولموا اشاضايا للصاروخ او كتبات ما نزلوش اللي انصاب هوني وهذا عمل لو الصاروخ كان عامل نزل عمق اكثر من هيك. هسه كتبات برزيل.
Right, he's saying if it was a Hezbollah rocket, first of all, they wouldn't fire in this direction, and if it was from them, it would have caused, much more splash damage, and it's more, in all likelihood, an Israeli interceptor. And I'll show you also this excellent thread from Michael Cobbs, who follows me. And I don't know if Michael's watching right now. I've used one of his threads before, which was very clinical and surgical, like this. But I can't remember what segment it was. But when I saw his name and the way it was made, I knew it was him. So I want to just show you briefly how he reconstructed the whole thing. Okay, so here there's a video. Give me a second. So you can't see the full thread here. I'm going to pull it up on the other one so you can see all of it. All right, give me a second. So Okay, I think you should be able to see it now. Yeah, so, you know, he goes through the whole thing, and this is the video. It's the only video. I think there might be a second one, but I haven't verified it yet. But you can see the strike, okay? You can see and hear it, and he goes into analyzing the sound. So let's just watch it. Okay, so, and then he talks about the Doppler effect. So, you know, that's basically when you have like a police siren or a car whizzing past you, you know how it changes pitch. So he's trying to explain that basically it's a straight line. It's not supposed to be a straight line. He says, Hezbollah admit to having attacked the Hermon brigade in the Golani barracks with a Falak 1 rocket. That's a ballistic rocket. It rises to a certain height, burns out and falls to the target, accelerated by gravity. Now, the frequency of the Doppler effect resulting from the acceleration and change in angle of the projectile to the viewer, and therefore necessarily always results in a curved shape. Okay, so it gets louder. You can see this is a spectrograph. Okay, it's a spec. It's a frequency analyzer. So it goes up, gets louder, and then it drops. But that's not what's happening. He's saying a straight line over 2 seconds suggests that the sound source is moving at a constant speed. That means with propulsion, meaning it is a rocket. Okay, so it's burning fuel. It's traveling at a constant speed. And that suggests that it's an Iron Dome rocket, an interceptor, because it relies on propulsion. Because the difference between a rocket and a missile is the rocket is, you know, you fire it and then you can't change where it's going to land. I mean, the weather might or something else, but you can't adjust it anymore, right? You have a certain trajectory and you fire it. With a missile, the missile can change, and usually it's going to have propulsion, and you know, it's burning up fuel and traveling. The sound is also going to be constant in this case. And so he's saying that the sound stops 0.5 seconds before the explosion. With a ballistic missile, so when it's falling, the sound is created solely by the draft of air and cannot be switched off. For an interceptor, however, it is plausible that the engine is switched off in order to stabilize the flight path. Okay, so the fact that the sound cuts off just right before the explosion, it suggests that it's a missile even more. Okay, and he gives this as an example. This is the video I just showed you in March. So, you know, I mean, excellent thread and very clinical. It's just adding forensic evidence in addition to the fact that I told you that Hezbollah would never fire at this place. If they did, they would admit it. There is no, you know, precedent for it. They're very precise in their strikes. They have been the entire last 9 months. And you know, in addition to the photographs where there's no crater, there's no damage visible, typical of a Hezbollah rocket. We also have the sound, which we can analyze and use to determine what happened. And also, just use your brains for a second. We're talking about Israel. What is there in this world that the Israelis have not lied about? Have they not crushed hundreds of people and then claimed that Hamas, do you remember at the Baptist hospital, Al-Ahli hospital, they killed hundreds of people and then said that it was Hamas, that a Hamas rocket did that? When has Hamas have fired thousands of rockets at Israel? When has one of those rockets ever killed hundreds of people? Ever. And now suddenly, the exact same area that we can see and we know Israel was bombing, Hamas killed hundreds of people. I mean, the things they lie about are so easily disproven. They lie about who they tell you they come from the Middle East when the Ukrainian and Polish. There's nothing they won't lie about. They kill children every single day. You think they give a crap about Arab children? They're only trying to use this as a political piece of capital so that they can convince, you know, their patrons in the United States that they have to go and bomb Lebanon. You know, they can't start the war that they want because they're too cowardly to do it. So they need US support to help them. And now they're trying to come up with a reason. Remember, Netanyahu went to went to Congress, and he was standing there and telling them how evil Iran is and all this and that. And the Israelis know that if they attack Lebanon, Iran is going to help. And so they need the Americans. They need the Americans to approve. And I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, also the fact that it's a Druze community. The Israelis would love nothing more than to see Hezbollah and the Druze community again, the largest one is in Syria and the second largest in Lebanon, okay? So it's significant. The Israelis would love nothing more than to see the Israelis would love nothing more than to see Druze and Hezbollah fighting with each other, or, public support turning against Hezbollah. Oh, look how reckless you are. Oh, you're attacking Arabs now. Oh, you're denying it and refusing to take responsibility. You're shameless and dishonest. Blah 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 blah. And of course the best one, which is you're gonna start a war and you're gonna bring Israeli bombs and onto have them rain down onto us. I mean, there's a lot of political infighting to be gained from blaming this on Hezbollah and convincing Arabs and Lebanese people that that's true. So, look, I mean, the people in the town itself, in Majdal Shams, are saying it was Israel. And you can see here, Shmotrich, okay? Again, what a Middle Eastern name, Shmotrich. So Middle Eastern, it's just, it exudes with Palestinianness. So, he tried to go there. Okay, this is the finance minister, the Israeli finance minister. He tried to go to the funeral today, and they chased him away. 1 second. You should be able to see it now. So, they've been looking for a reason this whole time to have a war with Lebanon, because Hezbollah have been humiliating Israel militarily, destroying all of these towers that they have and all these expensive sensors and microphones and surveillance equipment, their electronic warfare, their radar systems. All of them have been destroyed, systematically over the last months. Billions and billions and billions of dollars just, gone down the toilet. They've shot down their drones. They've shot down their early warning and reconnaissance systems, these Sky Star and Sky Dew balloons. They've shot down the operators of the balloons at the same time. They've destroyed their Iron Dome batteries, the command and control centers, the radar. I mean, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. They've set the settlements on fire. They've pushed the entire line back into Israeli quote unquote territory. So there's nothing that Hezbollah, have left to humiliate the Israelis with. And so now, they think, okay, this is a good opportunity to paint the Israelis as victims. May I just point out the irony of this being a football field? So when I and, others and myself are criticizing Israeli athletes for being soldiers, for supporting the genocide in Gaza, and for breaking the impartiality rules of athletes at the Olympics, and exposing the fact that they have murdered hundreds of Palestinian footballers and destroyed Palestinian football fields. All of a sudden, there's, so-called quote, Israelis. These are not Israelis, they're Syrians, but they claim Israelis being hit in a soccer field, in a football field. I mean, the chances of that happening at the same time everyone is saying Israel should be banned from the Olympics are astronomical. They're just astronomical, right? And a children's football field on top of it, like out of all the football fields in Israel. It's astronomical that this would happen. And we're supposed to just believe that. I'm not necessarily suggesting, it's a false flag or something, because the Iron Dome is crap. It literally does fail. I showed you evidence of that. So it's completely, entirely possible that the Iron Dome just, by accident hit that. But it doesn't mean that it was Hezbollah, okay? And the Israelis would absolutely use this, try to capitalize off of it, and find an excuse to go in and bomb Lebanon and level Beirut and, do whatever else they want with the Americans. So absolutely, entirely possible that they would do that. Just like they took advantage of Al-Aqsa flood on October 7th to start a genocide. Why wouldn't they use this as an opportunity as well? Especially when they have morons like these people in German media who can't read maps, who can't read maps and don't know anything about the Middle East, and are just making up this idea that this is Israel and these are Israelis. I mean, of course, who better than Western journalists to fall for this crap? So, the Israelis now, they're copying what Iran did with keeping people guessing. So you remember when Israel bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Iran did not strike immediately. Iran gave time, to the United Nations Security Council to hash it out diplomatically. They wouldn't even apologize, nothing. They waited for 2 weeks, and they kept the Israelis guessing and guessing and guessing what's going to happen, keep them on edge. I think that the Israelis are trying to copy that strategy and keep Hezbollah and Lebanon and the world on edge by not, playing their hand and revealing their plans too soon. I mean, again, it's only been 24 hours, or a little over 24 hours, but nevertheless, you remember when Yemen struck Tel Aviv, or Jaffa as it's actually called, and has been called for thousands of years. They went and bombed Hodeidah immediately, right? And that was way more humiliating and and actually happened, in so-called Israel. It actually took place in occupied Palestine. So, I think they're trying to copy that, and this is just I love this so much that the families told Netanyahu to go to hell. I think that's so funny, and not just him, but Smotrich also at the funeral. I find that so funny. It's what I'm talking about when I tell you that Druze are very patriotic. This is exactly what I mean. Is that they're not going to go and blame Hezbollah. They're not going to go and start believing lies because it's expedient. They're not going to pretend that they're Israelis. No, they're very clear about where they stand. And watching this dirtbag, talk is just so funny.
In a soccer field in Majdal Shams in northern Israel, Hezbollah then lied
Hezbollah
to the whole world and claimed they did not carry out this attack. This is a lie. We can confirm that Hezbollah...
Okay. Just to remind you, this is the same man. This is the same man who pointed at a calendar. A calendar. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The days of the week. And said that this is a hostage nannying schedule for Hamas fighters. This is the same man. So I wouldn't take anything that he says seriously at all. Not even one, we don't need a grain of salt. We need kilos of salt, okay? Once again, you remember he went into Gaza on the ground and he pointed at a calendar, just an Arabic calendar with the days of the week, and said it's a hostage nannying schedule. I think he was pointing at a bunch of toilet seats and saying that this is a tunnel entrance or something.
Murdered 10 children in this brutal attack and injured more than 20.
So about children, the same day, not only did the Israelis kill children in general, okay? Not only did they kill Palestinian children in general, Arab children in general, but they also killed another player, okay? They killed another Palestinian child in Gaza who plays for football clubs. So they managed to further damage a youth football academy in Gaza in the same morning and kill another Palestinian child who's a football star. So, I find this very difficult to believe that the Israelis care about dead Arab children playing on a football field when all they do is bomb Arab children every single day, literally 24 hours a day. Literally, every day. Again, the primary victims in Gaza are children and women. That's a statistical fact. We have their names. So, this is, there are 20,000 children missing, by the way. Missing. Okay? So, those are not counted in the dead, just to be vigilant and rigorous. They're not even counted. They're missing. No one knows where they are. They're likely dead, though. So I don't buy any of this. I don't buy any of this. I think the Israelis want to start a war with Lebanon. They, if they do that, though, they're morons, because look how difficult it is for them in Gaza to, penetrate the defenses of the Qassam brigades and the other brigades that are fighting against them, the PFLP, Islamic Jihad, they have failed within the last 9 months to accomplish a single military objective, a single one. Okay? They have failed. And Hamas and the other brigades are living under siege. They're surrounded, right? They're pinned down by air, by land, by sea. Whereas you look at Hezbollah did not have the same challenges. Hezbollah were able to kick out the Israelis from South Lebanon. They liberated it. They were able to, wipe the floor with them in 2006 again. And since then, they've been building up their arsenal, building more tunnels. Just, they have, just by virtue of not being under siege also, they have far more capabilities than Hamas do. So if the Israelis are struggling in Gaza this much, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to Hezbollah? I mean, I told you, I listed to you all the things they've done in the last months, with the Iron Dome, with the Sky Star and the Sky Dew, with the radar towers and the surveillance and the settlements, setting them on fire. Hundreds of thousands, at least 100,000. I think the number is double. But at least 100,000 Israeli settlers have been evacuated from the border, so-called border with Lebanon. So it's putting an enormous strain on their economy. It's an enormous military humiliation, and Hezbollah are achieving their political goals of helping the Palestinians. So, if they really want to start a war with Lebanon, I mean, be my guest, because that's really going to be the final nail in the coffin for this colony. I'm telling you, it's the final nail in the coffin. They are going to wipe the Israelis out like nothing you have seen in history. Do you know all the petrochemical sites where the Israelis store all these flammable, very, very flammable materials? Hezbollah published a video last month with their drone, which is an undetectable surveillance drone, as a message to the Israelis, like, we have eyes on Haifa. We can see your military ships. We can see your economic sites. We can see all the storage facilities. We will blow them sky high if you try anything, if you change the rules of engagement, if you change the equation, if you try to escalate. These are going, okay? They're going up in smoke and up in flames. And then they filmed the spy base in on Mount Hermon, which they've struck before. Actually, Iran wiped it out on April 13th, and Hezbollah hit it again, and they filmed it for good measure, because the Israelis love going and rebuilding it all the time. So they can hit the spy bases, the economic sites, the ports, and then on top of that, they filmed the Air Force Base, the Ramat David Air Force Base, which used to be an RAF base and now is an Israeli Air Force Base, and published the name of the commander. I mean, like, these are messages to the Israelis that we can see you and we can hit you in places you never thought possible, and our intelligence is good. We know who is running the bases, even we have their photographs and the names. You got Israeli troops in the base who don't even know the commander's real name, and then Hezbollah are just publishing it. So we're not dealing with Hezbollah of 2006 or the 1990s. This is Hezbollah 2024. It's a completely different beast. It's the best armed and best trained non-state army in the world. They have the biggest arsenal. They have the best fighters. Just look at, what they've done. So if Israel want to go ahead and have Haifa up in flames, I mean, okay, be my guest. Really, be my guest, because to quote an Israeli military official, this war will be over in 24 hours. That's how bad Hezbollah are going to wipe the floor with the Israelis, rather. So go ahead, and especially if you're going to do it over Syrians. I mean, wow, what an honor. It's the first time in history the Israelis actually retaliate for dead Syrians instead of going and, adding insult to injury. But I mean, this is something else. It's going to be adding injury to themselves. Really just amazing. Really amazing that they pretend to care. I'm sorry, but there's no way on earth you're convincing me that a Hezbollah rocket did that. You would know if it was a Hezbollah rocket. Trust me, you would. So I think we can put that story to bed, okay? This was not Hezbollah. In all likelihood, this was Israel. And by the way, when I said before that there's a third possibility, which is a very remote possibility, but it could be, who knows? Maybe someone from Syria fired it. Again, this is the Golan Heights, right? It's in Syria. But I doubt it, because, again, who would be firing at Majdal Shams? from inside Syria. That makes literally no sense. So, I mean, we could also list a million possibilities. We could say it was aliens from outer space who also drone striked it. I mean, we could sit here and come up with a million fantasies. But at the end of the day, the highest likelihood is that this was Israel. Their Iron Dome sucks. Their Iron Dome has misfired on this town before. The Israelis do not care about Arab children. They are happy to kill Arab children. They do it every single day. And they are liars of the highest order. They lie about everything. They lie about who they are. They lie about the history of their colony. They call it, they change the whole damn name. They lie about UNRWA, being infiltrated by Hamas. They lie about Hezbollah every other day. What lie is there that they haven't told? Okay, what is there that they haven't told? I mean, it's insane. Even the other day, Netanyahu was standing in Congress and saying, how many casualties, civilian casualties in Rafah? Practically none. Those are the words he said, practically none. I mean, okay, yeah, you go live in your fantasy. And if you want a war, then just start the war. Stop, pussyfooting and beating around the bush. Just start the war. If you really want a war, just start the war. Okay, Hezbollah, the men in Hezbollah will put you back in your place. Just do it. Come on, stop wasting time and get this over with, all right? Idiots.